On.
Hello again and welcome back to IoT Innovation. Today we're going to talk about apps, and because everyone talks about apps, so we thought we'd better do it as well. And really the hook today is to talk about applications are driving a crazy amount of activity in this space. And what we want to talk about is the app development community and how we've seen it grow up with smartphones, but we think there's some pretty interesting options here with IoT.
Telecom Careers, the #1 global telecom and wireless job board, telecomcareers.com. CommScope, thinking beyond today's technology to help you make the best decision for your network and your business.
So welcome back. And feature phones have really grown up from basic limited devices to the smartphones that we're all carrying around today. Along that journey, it's important to remember that the components of value that have been added to these devices started out as accessories and started out as little extra bits that have been plugged into our phones and then became an integral part of these devices. And one thing that's key to remember here is the value started with things as basic as polyphonic ringtones. And so what we want to talk about today is some of the smartphone parallels that are starting to be drawn with IoT. And our guest today is Simon Buckingham, who's the CEO and founder of Appitalism, which is a US company focused on social applications and a platform through which both consumers and carriers can actually leverage mass market applications in a really unusual and interesting way. And this has been a business journey that Simon started a long time ago. And hi, Simon. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Chris.
So I thought it's great to talk to you about IoT because what I'm seeing here is a similar journey that we've lived the last 15, 20 years with phones. And, you know, your story's always fascinated me about how you were at Vodafone and realized that that smartphones or feature phones at that stage would start to actually have polyphonic ringtones. So you actually created a business all about ringtones, which has grown into a number of businesses that you're running today. So what do you see about IoT? Tell us a little bit about your predictions based on the history that you've got with this landscape.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think that in terms of smartphones, really the IoT apps, things to control your things around your home, like your swimming pool, your home alarm, your garages, your your energy consumption. All of these apps are actually very, very useful for consumers. So increasingly, as we move towards a connected home environment, a smart home environment, what you're doing is you're giving consumers more apps and more reasons for them to use a smartphone, and also devices like smart watches. I mean, one of the great things about having a smart watch is it's quite nice if you get an alert if maybe a motion detector has gone off in your home, or somebody's forgotten to lock up a window or something like that. So I think actually apps are going to drive a lot of the innovation and a lot of the loyalty, and really give people a business case and a use case for having a smartwatch, for using their smartphone more and more and more as an integral part of their life, and really being able to control more and more things in their life.
Yeah, exactly. It's so one thing that occurs to me, I mean, with two English accents on the phone talking on a US based channel here, one of the things that occurs to me is, apart from the fact we might need subtitles, is as Nick and our guest last week talked about user experience, one of the things I'm seeing here is that what is driving smartphones and what is going to drive IoT, in my view, is how these devices become integral to your life. So, and I think your examples of security systems, home lighting, things like this, these are ways that IoT is going to grow up and kind of merge with the smartphone experience that we've all got already. So although it's called IoT, it won't really feel like a new category. It will just feel like an extension. But one thing I'm fascinated by is you're spending a lot of your time overseas. Your business is in a number of countries. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in some of those other markets that maybe we've not seen in the US yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely right. I think the US is probably more advanced in terms of smart homes and, some of the Creston systems, home automation and those kind of systems that I have, where you can control pretty much everything in the home. And a lot of homes now are being wired for that. But a lot of the applications that you see for IoT around the world are more of a more industrial nature. So we're seeing a lot more sort of environmental apps, because really the infrastructure, I think, is a little less developed. So people really want to have more visibility and trying to increase the efficiency and build towards smart cities and that kind of thing. So I think everybody faces, wherever you are in the world, you have the same challenge, really. And that's obviously getting the hardware deployed, getting the technology employed, building the business case, how you're going to justify things economically, how you're going to get the cost of the cellular modules or the Wi-Fi modules, down to a point where we can have ubiquitous connectivity and ubiquitous information and data flowing. So really, it's driven in my view by three things. One, the hardware has to be right. Mm-hmm. Secondly, the application has to be right. And thirdly, you talked about user interface. Clearly, you have to be able to interpret and control the data and understand what's going on. So I completely agree with you that all of these components have to come together for IoT apps to be truly useful to people in their everyday life and truly useful to businesses as they go about building their services.
Right. So I mean, let's talk a little bit about the applications, because I think this is a really under discussed topic area related to IoT at the moment, because with the possible exception of smartwatches, I mean, there's not a lot of on-device apps that are thought about. It's actually more apps on smartwatches, smartphones and other devices that are on your tablet that control an IoT device. So, I mean, as you've built this community worldwide with application developers and content, both for consumers and large brands, have you started having those conversations with those groups regarding the apps for the IoT devices? Is this an area that's starting to pop up on the agenda of all the meetings that you're having?
It definitely is, Chris. Yeah, I think people are really starting to get behind our IoT apps because they're something that's very innovative. I mean, there's only so many games that you want to play on your smartphone. Every day, there are 1,000 new games published on the app stores. So there's a tremendous amount of competition in some of the consumer side, whereas some of the IoT stuff, I think, presents third parties with a huge opportunity, because it's a lot more of a less competitive environment, if you like. There are more and more standards now, so that you can start to access different equipment in a more of a standardized way. So third parties can start to build applications that help people to control things within their home and within their business. So I think if developers start to use IoT apps in their own life, as I've started to do, I think the light bulb goes off. They start to realize it's not really the Internet of Things. They don't think of it in those terms. They think about it in terms of how they can control their life, how they can basically get visibility and access and control over things going on around them. So I think a lot of developers see a lot of opportunities as we move forward and as more and more devices become connected.
So interestingly, you talked about control and you talked about the developer noise, that kind of the range of competition. One of the things that I've seen over the years on the hardware side is that there are various parties that have agendas to try and drive the bus in terms of hardware features, hardware control. From a systemic point of view, the operators have a big role to play in this development of IoT. They certainly, are the ones that drive features. We've seen companies like AT&T, who we'll be talking to next week, get involved in digital home, digital life, some of the security system and automotive activities. You spent time at Vodafone and working with the operators around the world over the years. What do you think about their role in this IoT landscape? I mean, should they be leading from the front? Should they be kind of sweeping up and filtering things? What do you think how are they viewing this changing opportunity?
Well, I think the operator has two roles, really. One, I think, is obviously the transport, providing a lot of the connectivity and the ability to actually connect all of these devices takes quite a lot of bandwidth. It's going to take high-speed data networks and capacity there. And clearly devices as well. I think the operators could standardize some of the modules, some of the devices, maybe start to subsidize some of them to get, some of the economics of scale and scope kicking in. And then I think the other side for the operators is probably in terms of data aggregation. I mean, somebody needs to aggregate all of the data from all of these devices, all of these activities, and try and potentially make sense of it. And I think an operator is a trusted party. A carrier is somebody that can provide that intelligence and aggregate and unify everything. That's a big question for them. Are they going to utilize a third party, or are they actually going to start sifting through some of this stuff, themselves? So I think there is a role for the operator to play, but I think equally third parties have a very important part of this ecosystem. I think app development is, and user interfaces is quite a specialized area. We prefer to see app developers come in and build, the front end, app stuff. And then, a lot of third parties, there are a lot of contractors out there to put these devices in, install a lot of this infrastructure and equipment. It tends to be that you would use a third party to do that. So right. I think really in terms of enabling this entire ecosystem, there are several partnerships and several players that need to be involved.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's part of the conversation that we'll have next week with AT&T. But I mean, I think you're exactly right. The retail stores are not the place to learn about IoT. There's a lot of media activity. There's a lot of discussion about these devices that Google or Facebook or others are supporting and how they fit in. And I mean, part of what this series has been about is trying to sift the noise from the really life-changing devices and features. So coming on to that a little bit, I mean, at the end of the day, the way I see technology is that I have to care about it first as a human being before I start to care as a professional. And so, I mean, I'm always interested in what type of applications, what type of use cases have you found to be really compelling for yourself, and if you've got some examples.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say that the education and awareness. You know, I've built a lot of services over the last 20 years, from text messaging to ringtones to apps. You know, and really, in order for things to become successful, the first thing you need is education and awareness. So one of the things that I think is quite useful is if we do use the word smart. You know, we talk about smart homes, smart cars, we talk about smartphones, smart watches. I think, you know, the Internet of Things as a, you know, or machine to machine, or whatever you want to call it, is quite a difficult piece of terminology for consumers to get around. So I quite like to have, you know, I think the operators and the industry can play a role in terms of branding these types of services so that consumers can understand them and be aware of them, because that's the precursor to any type of adoption. You know, and I think in terms of my personal apps, some of the things I've been doing, and let me just show my device here if you can see it. You know, I'm controlling a lot of things really around the home with my device. So I have an app here that controls my my alarm system. Let me just log in. So I have my security system. I don't know if you can see, but there are a whole bunch of different sensors. I can see that at the moment my laundry window is open, and I can see that the motion detector in my master bedroom has been activated, so I can get all sorts of notifications. And what happened here was my security company, Safe Touch, did a deal with a company called alarm.com. So now if I want to turn my alarm on or turn my alarm off or see what's happening in my home, I can use my alarm.com app, you know, and that's quite useful. If I forget to turn the alarm off, I can be out on the road in my car and I can just go ahead and turn it on, turn it off. And I can do that remotely. Similarly, I have an app here, which is a home automation app. It's from a company called Creston, who are quite big in the home automation. And I can control things here, like I can control my blinds, you know, my lighting, my climate, my shades. I can you know, push my shades up and down, you know, remotely. I can control my thermostat with this particular application, you know, and the same thing here with my pool, my swimming pool. I used to use this device here to actually, you know, this was my home automation device. I could basically just turn my air blower on, turn my spa on, you know, heat the pool, cool the pool, and that kind of thing. But now what I've got is an app that will enable me to do the exact same thing. I can basically, you know, connect to my pool lighting, turn my pool lighting on and off. I can have a look at my spa and I can turn the heater on and off. So, you know, a lot of devices now, a lot of applications and things around the home, whether it's climate, whether it's security, whether it's swimming pools, whatever it might be, you know, I can now actually control with an app on either my smartphone or my smart watch. And that just gives me more reasons to pick up my phone. It gives me more uses, you know, to adopt the phone, and it gives me more control. And you know, and ultimately, the smartphone does start to become that remote control for your life. You know, that we've always you know, thought it would be. The vision has always been you can control everything, see and do everything. And these IoT apps, these smart apps, you know, I've started to use within the last, you know, year or so. And now I use them, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a day. I wouldn't mind checking things, seeing what the temperatures are of the pool, etc., you know, whatever it might be. So I find them very, very useful, and it really has driven my loyalty and my engagement with the smartphone, and made me think maybe I do need a smart watch, so like I can see if something's going on. I can, control things around the home with a smart device.
So interesting, because I mean, basically, what you're saying, I think, is that the IoT devices, with maybe the exception of the smartwatch, are really acting as sensors for your life that are aware of things that you're not present to be aware of personally. And then basically your smartphone is acting as the remote control for that. So you're actually on the network and engaging with the network more and with the phone more than you used to, because you're turning to it to look at these remote devices.
Exactly. I mean, something pretty simple. Last week I went down on vacation, and I had a pet sitter come in, and by getting notifications of when the front door opens and stuff like that, I can basically see what's going on. I've actually got camera access. I can look at the cameras around my home, and check what's going on. So yeah, when you're not there, and I think when you're not there, you are there. You have a certain amount of access and a certain amount of control. And I don't think it's revolutionary, Chris. These things are all great, to be able to do. But I think it's the accumulation when you've got all of these things. It is quite nice if you want to turn the spa on, and it takes half an hour to warm up, to the temperature, and you're out and about, say you're supermarket shopping. It's quite nice to be able to just turn the spa on, so that it's when you're back, it's ready to use it. I mean, these aren't revolutionary things, but they're certainly very, very convenient. In the case of the consumer. And one of the other applications I have here in the house, if I can show you, I don't know if you can see this, but I also here in the home, I have this house here is what's called an energy wise home. And actually, these little sensors here are connected to the water heater, and also they're connected to the air conditioning unit. And what these sensors actually do, my energy company, a company called Duke Energy, is actually through an IoT device controlling all of my energy consumption in the home. So what they actually do, they've got these are two-way communication devices, and what they do is they turn off the water heater, they turn off the pool heater, they turn off the air conditioning unit, and they're actually saving money. They have an environmental, a positive environmental impact. So, energy companies like Duke Energy, with this Energy Wise program, they can actually use IoT to help the homeowner, to actually help with the overall community demand. If there's a rush on services, they can actually moderate some of your usage. And these sorts of applications, I think, go on in the background that are actually managed by my own energy company, actually end up saving quite a lot of money each month, because ultimately if the water heater's full, turn the thing off, you don't need to incur more energy. So these are very useful applications and things that are going on in IoT, and personally I just think there are going to be more and more of them over time. And as more new houses get built, I think that all of this stuff is going to be pre-wired. We've got Cat 6 fiber snaked all around the home, and everything can be accessed and controlled, via an IoT app. So it just becomes tremendously powerful. And over time, obviously, the costs are going to go down, the hardware is going to get cheaper. And so is the connectivity and the bandwidth. And I just think these things are going to be more and more convenient for consumers and obviously for businesses as well. And that presents a tremendous opportunity for application developers, because actually a lot of these companies that put this hardware in are not necessarily the best people to do, intuitive, easy user interfaces. I mean, as a good example, Creston, who do the home automation, the smart home software, until recently they had a very poor user interface. Same with my pool company, Pentair. They actually, I'm going to try and pull this app up and show you, some of these apps. I mean, you can have a look here if you can see it. I mean, that's a very simple app. I mean, basically, there's nothing to it. The user interface is quite poor. I personally think that, I've got this sort of here. This is quite difficult for me to even read. My salt level. It's if somebody could build a more intuitive app. I don't even know what an ORP level is at 708. Should I be worried about my ORP level? So I just think this is a tremendous opportunity for an app developer to come in and actually build a better app, build a better interface, and actually do a little bit what Mint.com did in the personal finance sector. They built a very simple and easy way for you to be able to actually manage all of your different bank accounts. I almost think you need like a Mint.com for IoT apps, where instead of me having 4 or 5 apps, for my TV, my alarm system, my security system, I almost want to see everything in one app and be able to control all of that. That would be tremendously useful for me in an intuitive, easy to use format. So I think there are big opportunities out there for third parties to get involved in these IoT apps and do a better job than some of the more hardware oriented companies are doing at the moment.
Yeah, I think, Nick talked last week about the Amazon Echo device. And I mean, having been playing with that now for a little while, I mean, they're starting to integrate other things like the Hue lighting and some of the Wemo remote control of power supplies, that where you don't have to go to another device. The application is there, it's voice controlled, so you don't even have the UI is actually voice controlled rather than having to go to an app, which of course you can do as well. I think the key, back to the question about the operators, is who's going to consolidate this, because if you've got one remote, you've got this is almost a Lord of the Rings thing. I mean, one ring to bind us, right? I mean, so if you've got one way of controlling everything, who is the company controlling all of that? And I guess to some extent in our lives today, that's companies like Google and Apple, because they're the repositories for all this information. I don't think I see that yet for home automation and some of these other applications. Maybe it's coming from the Nest acquisition, or maybe it's coming from Amazon, but I'm not sure who's going to drive that from an application point of view. What do you think?
I think that it will. I think that you're absolutely right. The big players in the internet, with Google, Google and obviously Amazon and Apple and people like that. Apple have obviously got all of their SDKs across cars and homes and devices and health, etc. And Google, even this week have bought out a fitness tracker, and they bought a couple of high-speed Wi-Fi networks, so they're thinking about the connectivity side of it. They bought out a new camera in the Nest family, right, which is based off of their Dropcam acquisition. So I do believe that all of those players are going to fight to own the home, control some of the things around the home as well. But I do think that there is a role for third parties. And I think there's a role there's a lot of competition and innovation to come. And I think if you're an IoT application developer and you're able to build something that does get traction by utilizing some of these third party and standards, that are being adopted around IoT, then clearly you could become a big acquisition target, and you can build something up and really get there and really be successful in this emerging ecosystem, because this is very much day one. There are a few apps and a few players are starting to position themselves, but at this point in time, nobody has really been able to capture the entire ecosystem and embed themselves in everybody's lives, in every way. So there's still a big opportunity there. Whereas some of the more consumer apps, it is much tougher to go out there and build a game that's going to be successful.
There's 1,000 others.
Exactly, with 1,000 others every single day. So I think there's some great opportunities for apps. And we can't wait to see some of the innovation that happens, in the enterprise space and in the consumer space.
Well, I mean, as you have done for the last 20 years, I look forward to watching how you're participating in this journey, and really want to say thank you for your time today talking with us about this. And I don't know about the rest of the viewers, but I feel like the one thing I want to do now is spend the weekend at your house. So anyway, Simon, thanks a lot for giving us a little bit of time, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And so our guest today has been Simon Buckingham, the CEO of Appitalism, and we'd like to close at that point. And if you've got any topics and speakers that you'd like to put forward for the future, then please let me know.
I will, my friend. Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye, Chris. See ya. Bye, mate.
IoT Innovation is a production of RCR TV. To reach Chris Hare or suggest a show topic for IoT innovation, you can reach Chris at cbh@ntete.com. To find out more about IoT innovation and all things wireless, visit rcrwireless.com.